Okay, right. So a number of slides to go through. I'll try and keep the talk down to a minimum. My name's Stuart. I work at PRS for Music. My role at PRS is Outreach Manager. I was a musician years ago. I haven't picked up a guitar for a long time. I used to play guitar in punk bands and such like back in the day, but now I do this side of things. So one thing I will say about my life playing music and such like is that I had no idea about PRS. I had no idea about the different sort of organizations out there that could assist and help and ultimately pay money. So I would expect that you're probably in a similar sort of situation that I was many a year ago, but you've obviously got the opportunity to find out a little bit more. So the one area that is, if you like, that allows the business really to run, particularly with regard to PRS, is copyright. Now, it's important, therefore, to give you an understanding about copyright so you can see it in context with regard to the role of the organisations. It's not really the most exciting part of the industry, but it is crucial and important that you have an understanding about how copyright operates. So these slides, if I can click down. Right, so this is really just the basics of what copyright is. It's an edited version. If you really want to find out more about the ins and outs of it, there's so many resources available online. But to sort of simplify it, copyright is a form of protection. It provides the owners of creative works certain control or rights, if you like. The way, basically, the copyright owner has the control as to how their music is used. So as a copyright owner, you have a number of different rights or a number of ways in which you can control the use of your music. One thing I should say that I said at the start that copyright applies to creative works. So that copyright sort of arises automatically. There's no way there's not a formal way of sort of proving that you own something. It just happens. As soon as you write a piece of music, whether you're writing the words or creating beats, you are the copyright owner in either the lyrical content or copyright owner in the musical content. Similarly, if you record a song, if you've paid for that recording, then you own that recording and you own the copyright in that recording. So as a copyright owner, you have the authority to say how your music is being used. And you have the right to say, no, I don't want you to use it. But most people want their music to be heard by a wider, if you like, public. And the rights that you have as a copyright owner are those 6 bullet points there. There's a lot of terminology in the industry, and you know, it's still taken me time to get to grips with all the different terminology. But to simplify this, those 6 rights are bundled up, and the top 3, so the right to perform your music and for your music to be performed in public, that could be a live performance, it could be the playback of recordings in shops and businesses, etc. The right to communicate, which is another term for broadcast, and in this day and age, streaming, and the right to adapt, so remixes, arrangements, etc. Those 3 rights are bundled up and referred to as the performing right. The bottom 3 bullet points, the right to copy, to issue, and to rent, they're bundled up and they're referred to as the mechanical right. So straight away, you've got 2 terms. You've got the performing right and you've got the mechanical right. The performing right applies to a certain set of usages, and the mechanical right applies to a certain set of usages. So all very well, but what are the benefits? Right, bear with us a minute. Let me just remove all the pictures. So what are the benefits? Well, I suppose the most significant benefit is that as an owner of your music, you can make money if someone wants to use your music. As I explained, anyone who wishes to use your music needs your authority or your permission. And if you therefore wish to grant that permission to someone to use it, then along with your sort of say, yeah, it's fine, you can use my music, you can also charge a fee. And so again, we've got some more terms. So the granting or permission is what's referred to as a license, and if there's a fee associated with it, then that becomes a license fee. Now, you can, just give someone the authority or permission to use your music without any payment. That's fine, that's down to you. But obviously, as a rights owner, as someone who owns their songs, there is the ability to make money from the use of your music. And by making money, it's not just, it doesn't matter where you are in your career, whether you're just starting out or whether you're a seasoned sort of, professional, whether you're an amateur, you're just making a little bit of music, or you're making it full time. The fact of the matter is that if you have written the music or written the songs that you are performing or that are being performed by others, that performance or that use of music can generate money. And as I say to anyone, if there's money there to be made, then why not? And particularly if you're looking to make a career out of your music, then you have to be aware of all the different revenue streams, all the different ways in which your music can make you money. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is just look at this in a little bit more detail, but bring in the role of the collection societies. So why firstly are there collection societies, and what role do they sort of perform? Well, in answer to the first question, why are there collection societies? They basically provide the service that you would find it hard to do yourself. So I mentioned that as a copyright owner, you have the authority to grant permission to someone to use your music. So if you take a radio broadcaster such as Radio 1 need the permission from the people who have written the songs before they play those songs. But realistically, that's just not going to happen. Every day there's new releases, there's new music out there. Radio 1 and the producers are not going to contact every single songwriter and say, can I play your song? Obviously, the songwriter wants their song played. But nonetheless, under copyright, that's sort of how it should work. In much the same way, how does the rights owner get a little bit of money for the use of their song every time Radio 1, as an example, play their music? Again, that songwriter is not going to be contacting the broadcaster every second of the day, because they're never going to get on with creating music. So that's where collection societies come along. The artist or the creator joins the collection society, and then the collection society takes the responsibility of acting on behalf of their members, i.e. the songwriters, and they therefore license the use of the artist's songs with the broadcaster. So Radio 1 only has to deal with one collecting society, PRS. It doesn't have to deal with millions of individual songwriters. Okay, so there are a number of collection societies in the UK. The first two I want to focus on are PRS and another one called MCPS. So as the previous slide showed you, the rights are broken down into the performing right and the mechanical right. And therefore, these two societies represent or administer those individual rights. So the Performing Rights Society obviously administers the performing right, and the Mechanical Copyright Protection Society, because that's what MCPS stands for, administers the mechanical right. Both of these organisations act on behalf of and support the music creator, so the songwriter and the composer. Doesn't matter if you're an MC and just writing lyrics, or whether you're a producer, as I said, producing beats. You own the rights in the proportion, in the part of the music that you've created. So it's the songwriter that would need to decide whether they need to join PRS, whether they need to join MTPS, or whether they need to join both. And the decision is made based on how the music is being used at that point in time. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see that PRS pays the royalties for the public performance of the song. So shows, gigs, etc., DJ shows, live bands, artists, singer-songwriters, radio, TV, streaming, all the music that's played out in shops and businesses, retailers, that's the performing right. MCPS deals with when that same song has been copied into a recording. So, and obviously a recording traditionally would have been released on CD or vinyl. In these days, well, again, it's not so common now, but there would have been downloads as well. But there's also a degree of streaming revenue as well. And if you notice, both PRS and MCPS have streaming revenue. That's because the songwriter royalties for streaming is split between those two societies. Okay, so that's PRS and that's MCPS. And one thing to say on this, most people will join PRS, or particularly most new artists and emerging artists join PRS way before they join MCPS. And some artists never join MCPS. So the decision, again, is dependent on how your music is being used. Final thing to say about these two organisations, that they both sit under the banner of PRS for Music. So PRS for Music is the trade name for PRS, and MCPS pay PRS to undertake all of their services. So PRS for Music are the service provider for MCPS. So MCPS don't have loads of staff, they just pay PRS for Music to do it. And the reason why that is because, as you can see, both of these organisations represent and support the same person, the creator. So that brings us on to another separate organisation called PPL. So PPL act on behalf of a separate set of rights owners. They act on the people or person that owns the rights in the sound recording itself. Now, traditionally, this would have been the record label, but in this age of DIY, it's so easy to, to record yourself and to record your own sort of songs. Therefore, you become the rights owner in the sound recording. PPL, the royalties that PPL pay are very similar to PRS in that they pay it for the public performance of music, or more to the point, the public performance of the recording. So whereas PRS pays the songwriter, PPL pays the rights owners in the record label, but for that same broadcast on radio. Now, as a DIY artist, if you own the rights and you have in the sound recording and you have written your own music, then potentially you would benefit from joining both PRS and PPL and maybe even MCPS. And because straight away, that's 3 different sets of money that you could get paid. So again, using Radio 1 as an example, if one of your songs is played on, I don't know, say on Radio 1 or 1 Extra or BBC Introducing, if you're a PRS member, you get paid as the songwriter. If you're a PPL member, you get paid because you own the rights in the sound recording. Now, taking PPL a step further, they also have a separate set of membership for the artists or musicians, I should say, that have actually performed on the recording. So with PPL, if you own the rights in the sound recording, you join as a sound recording owner. But if you're also the musician or artist that's performed on that recording, then you join again, but you join as a performer. And then there's another set of money that you can get. So that straight away, you can see there's 4 revenue streams coming through here for different usages of music. Now, the final one, I would expect you're all familiar with, and that's the distributors, your CD babies and such like. So I just put this slide up just to sort of put it into context. Those distributors act on behalf of you because you own the rights in the sound recording. And most people don't actually appreciate that. They sign up with a distributor because that distributor is going to get their music available on Spotify, Apple, etc. But the reason that they can do that is because you own the rights in your sound recording. And therefore, the money that they are paying you is because you own the sound recording rights, and therefore that's why you're getting paid. And you'll see on the PPL, underneath PPL don't actually distribute money for online or digital. That comes via your distributor. So again, you've got another revenue stream, another means of making money, which is all good. As the more, well, it's all great, there's different services there waiting to pay you money, but the more your music becomes active and the more people that, the higher your profile, the very more regular your music, the more money that comes through. Okay, so PPL, who should consider? Anyone who owns the rights to sound recording, anyone who's given audible contribution to a recording. So that second point, the audible contribution to a recording, you might be the featured artist on your recording, but potentially you could have paid a session musician to, I don't know, to add some strings to the sound. Well, that session musician, although he doesn't own it, or she, that person doesn't own any rights, they still will receive a payment It's called, sorry, they'll still receive a payment from PPL because they've contributed to that recording. Maybe not as the artist themselves, i.e. the featured artist, but background artists. So again, if I don't know, if you know someone, an artist is recording, and you get an opportunity to go into the recording studio, if they say to you, "Oh, we need a bit of percussion, hey, come in and stick some hand claps on the back of this track," you've contributed to that recording. If you're a PPL member, then they'll pay you a little bit of money for those hand claps. Okay, the URL for PPL is at the bottom. Okay, so now we come on to PRS and MCPS. I've explained this already. It's the actual creators. So if any of you on this session are songwriters, sorry, or singers or performers, maybe you're you do a lot of open mic and you do a lot of performing other people's music. That's great, but you don't need to join PRS. It is just those people that have accredited role or share in the songwriting. I don't know, say you're in a 4-piece rock band and the creation side, the songwriting is undertaken by the songwriter, by the singer and the guitarist, and the drummer and bassist don't really contribute, then the drummer and bassist wouldn't join PRS or MCPS because there wouldn't be any money for them. But a lot of bands actually split it anyway, regardless. So if you take a band like Coldplay, it doesn't matter whether it's the drummer or whether it's the singer, all of their sort of contribution or share is equally split amongst the 4 of them. But that decision is theirs. Okay, so joining PRS, joining MCPS. So it costs £100 to join each society. So that's, I suppose, the bad news. The good news is it is a one-off fee. So there's no annual fee. Once you've paid, you're a member and your membership lasts for a lifetime. Because there is a fee to join, we try to ensure that you join at the right time. So, and the right time is, as explained, that as your music becomes more and more active, then you would consider joining. In a band, or if you co-write with others, so you, I don't know, say if you're an MC or a producer, for example, but you're collaborating with those same people or with other people, each individual needs to join separately. You don't join as a unit or as a band. And when you join PRS, your membership starts or it becomes effective from either the 1st of January or the 1st of July. And that date is determined by the date that you apply to join. So if you apply to join PRS in the first half of the year, January to June, then your membership takes effect from the 1st of January of that year. So if you were to join today, it will cover any performances from the start of this year. But once we get into the next month, into July, that clock resets itself. And then for the ongoing 6 months, January, July, August, September, etc., regardless of when you join, your membership starts from the 1st of July. So if any of you at the end of this session think, oh, I really need to join because there's some money for me there, bear in mind when that activity took place. So if any of your music was subject to performances that are generating money between the first half of this year, then you need to get your application to us by the end of June. Again, the URL for joining is below. One last thing I will say, the very last slide has got my contact details on. I have no problem whatsoever with any of you contacting me, mailing me if you've got any questions, you want a little bit more advice, on a personal basis, you want to talk about whether it is worth you shelling out 100 quid to join, etc. PRS operates, I should say, on a not-for-profit basis. So although there is a one-off fee, it's not for us to make money, it's just to offset the cost it takes to administer your membership. So, we're very keen for people to join when they're going to see a return on that £100. We don't encourage people to join if they're not going to sort of see a £100 return. Okay, so the joining process is you go onto the URL, prsformusic.com. You basically top right of the screen, there's a little icon that says you want to join. You click on the joining button and it will take you through the stages. A couple of things you need to be aware of. In order to pay your £100 fee, you have to do it online, so you have to do it there and then. And you will also currently need the ability to print off the application form, because you have to sign the form and send that signed hard copy form into us. So if you pay but don't print off and send it, your membership isn't active and you would have wasted your money. Okay, so that's the joining process. I just wanted to show you quickly what happens next. Once you've joined, the first thing you have to do is register all of your songs, all of your music with us, so that we are aware that you are basically claiming ownership or co-ownership, if you like, as a songwriter. And when we receive the license fee that all the businesses pay to us, a lot of those businesses also provide us with reporting. So again, going back to my radio broadcaster, all the radio broadcasters, all the TV broadcasters, they have to tell us what music is being used in their programs. So Radio 1, they send us lists, their playlists of every single song that they're playing through their 24 hours of broadcasting. Same with the radio TV stations, we get what's referred to as cue sheets, which tell us all the music that's being used in the programs that are being broadcast on TV. And all of that data enables us to know what music is being played, but we still need to, we're not going to know every single song, every single piece of music. So we require you guys to register your songs with us, so then we can match the information together, so we can see, this song was included in EastEnders and it was written by this person, and therefore this person gets paid. So this is an example of a song registration. This is Stormzy, I'm sure you're all familiar with the song Rossi Bop. So the screen is broken down into two parts, just to highlight how we identify, firstly, the song. You see underneath the title, there's something called a tune code, and there's something called an ISWC. These are two codings that aid us in the identification. The tune code is a PRS unique code, and the ISWC stands for International Standard Work Code. And there's also another code called the International Standard Recording Code. So, and both of those codes can be basically, they should both be sort of imprinted into the recording at mastering time. So therefore, then once the users are informing us of the music, they will inform us of this coding. YouTube, as an example, the data that we receive from YouTube is quite limited, but they will ensure that they provide us with the ISWC and the ISRC, and if known, the PRS tune code. So that's all we need. So when we're getting all this data in, we need the tune code so as we can match it to your work. So that's one part of the song. And then the other part is, once we know that there's some money to be paid out, how do we know who gets what? So that's basically, again, that's based on the registration that has been provided to us by either the artists themselves or their music publishing company, if they've signed with a music publisher. So these I've redacted some of the information, but these are the 4 writers that wrote that song. And these are the shares that they have agreed between them. So therefore, if this song was to generate £100, then each of these people would get paid those percentages of that £100. So so Michael is Stormzy, so therefore if a song or songs generated 100 quid, then he would get £16.66 of that. And below that are the publishing companies that they have signed a contract with. And the way in which we know which writer has a contract with which publisher is simply based on that chain of title, the A, B, or C. So Christopher with an A and Universal has an A, then they've got a relationship together. Michael Stormzy has a relationship with Warner Chappell. Okay, so that's that. So now, so I've talked about what you need to do about registering your works. Now, probably the most important bit, how much am I going to get paid? So this is just to give you a taste of it, really. So Radio 1, as you can see, is out of the ones that I've demonstrated on this slide, receive a little bit more than 6 Music or 1 Extra, because it's all based on, to a certain extent, on how many people are listening. So what are the audience sizes? Now these are broken down into per minute values. So, but it doesn't mean that you don't get paid if your music is less than 1 minute. You know, if you get 10 seconds of your music, then you get whatever the proportion of that 1 minute value. Most pop songs are around about 3 minutes or thereabouts. So therefore, on that basis, you can see one play on Radio 1 is going to generate around about 33 to 40 pounds, depending on how long the song was played. The high peak, low peak, and non-peak is simply it's the times of the day. High peak is the breakfast show, low peak is the afternoon, and non-peak is the evening. And again, as you can see, the value diminishes because there's less people listening. So most people listen to, if anyone's listening to traditional radio, then it will be the breakfast show in the morning generates far more listeners than the evening shows. The values are not established based on genre or style of music. It's really just who's listening to what. So on that basis, let's have a look at Radio 2. Radio 2 generates 26 grand a minute. So one play on Radio 2 is going to be at least 70, if it's a 3-minute song, it's going to be at least 75 pounds, but that's for one play. So again, if you think about these artists that get playlisted, if you get A-listed on Radio 2 or Radio 1, if you're A-listed, that's around about 25, a guaranteed 25 plays a week. So that's a healthy amount of money. And obviously, the more your profile rises, the more your music is going to be played, i.e. it's going to be regularly played, and therefore you're going to see money. What I haven't put on there is, sorry about that, what I haven't put on here is local radio, so BBC introducing, etc. Local radio is far less, it's under £1 a minute. In most cases, it's around about 20p or thereabouts. But there has to be a starting point. And again, the more your music is heard, the more likelihood it is that it will get picked up on different radio stations. As a quick plug to radio, to BBC, if you haven't used the BBC Uploader, it's a great tool. It gets your music online quickly, and it's a great opportunity to get your music pushed out to Radio 1, 6 Music, 1 Extra, Asian Network, etc. Okay, so now about live. So although sadly we haven't had, no artists have really had the opportunity to perform live, let's hope that this will change in a few weeks' time. So what's the value for live? If you're playing those small venues, the pub venues, the very small venues, there's a few examples of some London ones there, it's around about £9 a show. Now remember, this is paid to the songwriter. So hopefully as the artist that's performing on the night, you'll get paid for your performance. But if you're a PRS member, then you'll still get paid some more because you're playing your songs. If therefore...
you send me a link to them.
Yeah. So therefore, on that basis, just bear that in mind again. The more shows you play, the more money there's likely for you, even though it's small money. One thing to say about the small venues is a lot of small venues have open mic nights. They may be free, but you can just, if you play an open mic night, play your own songs, then you'll get around about £9 a show for those performances. The only thing you need to do is you need to claim that money through your PRS membership, so it doesn't come to you automatically. The next type of venue is like the major concert venue, U02s, and again, a few examples of some of the concert venues. The value for these shows is very different. It's based around the ticket prices. So PRS is paid 4.2% of the ticket price of the box office. So depending on how much the tickets cost and how many people purchase those tickets will depend on how much money we receive. What we then do is pay 80% of that overall pot of money to the headliner, and the remaining 20% is paid or split amongst the support artists. And finally, onto festivals, similar principle, but the rate, so similar principle to the what you saw previously, the 4.2, but the rate is very different, it's 2.7%. And that's because they have a lot of overheads. You know, they rock up, they have to pay for all of their festivals, you know, and it's very different to a purpose-built venue. Okay, so now streaming. So I mentioned with regard to streaming. So if any of you have got your music up there at the moment, as said, that's because you own the rights in the sound recording. But if you were a PRS member, there would be a small proportion. And this is the one slide that is probably is wrong, not wrong in the data, but it shouldn't be as what it is. Basically, as you can see, the publishing or the songwriting credit share is the red share or the red segment, and that receives the smallest or the lowest cut in relation to online and streaming. So the platform itself gets around about 30%. Then the rights owner, i.e. what you get through your CD babies, etc., that's 55 to 60%. And then the songwriter gets the smallest cut. We cannot provide you with per minute values for streaming because every quarter of streaming is different. It depends where the music's being heard. Every street DSP has different sort of agreements and such like. So it's so different to traditional radio. And the monetary value for streaming and for songwriter is far less than for radio, for live, etc. Okay, so I mentioned that it costs £100, so I thought I'd just roll up a few sort of examples. I mentioned about making sure that you join at the right time. So this slide gives you an indicator as to when is the right time. And if you look at the streamings, you'll see that you need to have had thousands of streams in order to generate, you know, a little bit of money or to see a return on your admission fee. So, you know, it's great if you're getting 50,000 streams, but those 50,000 streams are probably not going to generate a great deal of money for you as a songwriter. And there should not be any comparison between the money you get from your distributor to what you receive as a PRS member through your songwriting, because as said, the percentage is considerably different. Okay. Two last slides. So one, just quickly to mention, as a PRS member, you also have services of the Prs Members Fund. So should you fall on hard times, this is pretty much for what the Members Fund do. They provide support and assistance for those songwriters, or more to the point, for those members that are in need of assistance. And then there is the Prs Foundation. So the Prs Foundation was set up by PRS Music, or set up by PRS in 2000, so 20 odd years ago now. But it was set up specifically to provide funding for emerging artists. So, you know, similar to the funding that you're looking to achieve through Youth Music, there's funding available from PRS Foundation, and you would need to go to their URL or their website, and all of the information and the different sort of funds that are available, the different deadlines, all of the information is available on their website. Okay, so that's it. The summary, therefore, is PRS is a royalty collection organisation. We collect money in to pay money out. It's a membership organisation who the creators are the members. We issue the licenses for the right for customers to use your music. They pay for that right. They give us the money, and we pay you that money as a royalty when your music is being used. So that's the end. Thanks for listening, probably over time. I always like to talk. Let's go on now back to, if we can stop this sharing and go back to the real world. Right, okay, so questions. Anyone got any questions?
So we've got a couple in the chat box, right? So we've got this first one from Theo that asks, would it make sense to sign up for all four revenue streams as an up-and-coming artist? Okay, so Theo, firstly, it is really down to how your music's being used. One thing I didn't say about PPL is it's free. So therefore, remember, there's two set memberships. You join as a rights owner, as a sound recording, you join as the artist who has performed on those recordings, but it is free. So that's pretty much a no-brainer. I'd say, yes, sign up. As far as PRS and MCPS goes, it's hard to tell without knowing how active you are with your music. You know, if your music's getting played on radio, as I've sort of demonstrated, then yeah, it would probably be in your interest to join.
but don't join prematurely, because £100 £100, and you need to be using all of your money wisely to get you to that stage where your music is being heard far from, more regularly and more frequently. So if your music is at this point in time is mainly online in the digital world, then it depends on how many hits your music is being subject to, really. If you're talking a few thousand streams on a monthly basis, then no, now's not the right time. But if you're racking up sort of tens of thousands of streams, and that is on a monthly basis, then yeah, you might want to consider joining. MCPS, as explained, is usually the last one to join. And one thing I didn't say about MCPS, although this possibly doesn't apply to any of you, if any of you do sign a deal with a music publisher, music publishing company, that music publishing company takes responsibility for collecting all of your mechanical income, and therefore you don't need to join MCPS for that. Okay, hopefully that's answered. I said, I'm happy for you, Elijah, Domenica, you can forward out my email address. That's fine by me. And if anyone wants to hook up with a personal sort of one-to-one, that's fine.
Okay, so we've got another one from Kevin, who asked, if I've performed as a session musician for someone else's library track, how will PPL know how to pay me? I'm already a member of PPL.
Okay, so it's the actual label or that is responsible for firstly registering the recording details with PPL, and they're responsible for providing PPL with a list of all the contributors who performed on that recording. So as long as that information is available on the PPL website, then you should, if it's all dependent on your music being played, obviously, or the songs in question being played, but assuming that they are, and if you are a PPL member, then you should see some money for it. But if you're unsure, contact PPL. If you want to check to make sure that your name has been included as a session artist, contact PPL.
Okay, great, thank you. And the last one we've got in the chat box is, why should you join PRS when you're more active? What will happen if you join but you don't plan to publish anything soon? It's a one-time fee, so it will last for lifetime, right?
Okay, yeah, that's fair dues. If you're flush with cash, then fine. There is not a problem. There is a criteria. The criteria says that you have to be able to demonstrate that at least one of your songs has been subject to some form of public performance. So if one of your songs has been streamed, then that's a public performance, and therefore you meet the criteria and you can join. It's just that my guidance and advice has always be look after your money and use it wisely. So we're not in that place where you can perform live yet, but if any of you are live performers, 100 quid goes a long way with petrol money from getting from gig to gig, etc. If, like I said, I was a guitarist, strings and such like, it all costs money. So it is about using your money to the point that will move you along the level, your career track path, if you like. Yeah,
and I had one as well that asked if they can put that in this £100 in their NextGen Fund application, and you can. So that's kind of why we did this. So if you want to put that down in your applications, then please do. That's a good use of budget.
Yeah, and I'm not saying to you don't join. I'm just saying be aware of when is the best time to join, so that you'll see a return on your fee.
Okay.
Got any other questions?
There was a few people who had sent questions when they signed up. So we have someone who's asked, aside from signing up to PRS, are there any additional evidence, actions, documents to send to PRS every year? So for example, tax statements, revenue streams. And then they also asked what additional opportunities are available to support 18 to 25 through PRS.
Okay, so taking the two questions separately. Firstly, once you join and you've paid that initial fee, you're a member for lifetime. But the first thing and the thing that you will need to do regularly is register your music with us. You don't actually upload your music, so there's no MP3s, no uploading of music. It's simply when you become a member, you're given a unique password that gives you access to the member side of our website. and it's from that side of the website that you then maintain your membership. So firstly, registering your music. You've joined, you register everything you've written at that point in time, and then it's ongoing. So then you remember you're ongoing registering new music. And hopefully that in itself will generate money for you. But we have 4 payments a year. And let's say that you expect for particular performance periods. So say you were expecting some money and it didn't come, then you come back to us and you say, well, my music was played here, I didn't get paid. Where's my money? I mean, it'd be a little bit more than that. And then we'd help assist you with that. So there is this ongoing engagement with us once you join, but there is no sort of, you don't return, there's no tax returns or anything like that that you have to do on an annual basis. That's between you and the tax man. The money that we don't make any deduction of income tax or anything like that. That's for you to do or declare to the tax man yourselves. We simply pay you your royalties. And with that payment, you'll receive a distribution statement or a royalty statement, or more to the point, it will be online. And then you use that on that statement to aid you going forward. A lot of our artists, they use their royalty statements, particularly for live, to work out where their fan base is, because you can break down which songs are active in which countries. And therefore, that gives an idea as to where their fan base is, and they use it to gauge, to sort of schedule tours and such like. So there's a variety of ways in which you can use the website, but there's not a great deal, the more you engage, the more value you'll get out of your membership. The second part about what do we do, what is there anything we provide? Currently, everything is based around, if you're a songwriter, it's not about age. In fact, I've just been trying to assist a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old who have written some music, and it's actually been recorded by someone who won the Eurovision Song Contest. But as the songwriters for that, they're obviously going to have to join. Their parents are obviously assisting them. But there isn't anything actually that we currently where there's that sort of support for the young creators as such. The fee, for example, it's it's £100, regardless of whether you're 18 or whether you're sort of more mature, like myself.
Thank you. Ibby, if you book a session, then I'll answer your question, help you get some advice on music getting played on the radio and streamed. And then Kevin asked, if I compose music for films, would I be entitled to royalties through my film score at a film festival?
Okay, let's take that one first, because again, being old, I've forgotten the first question already. So as far as the second one, yeah, if you're writing for score, soundtrack, etc., most definitely, that's when a film is played in the cinema, that's a public performance. And so the music that's contained in those films generates money. Similarly, the music played in shops and businesses generates money. If you think about all the clothes retailers around the country, they use music to target a particular customer. Those, your Top Shops and Next and such like, they pay a license for the right to use music, and therefore then that generates money. So if your music is being subject to any form of public performance in airlines, in fair, Alton Towers and fun fairs and all of that, music's being played all the time. Every business that uses music under the Copyright Act, which goes right back to what I started there with, the fact that you own the rights in your music. Therefore, if anyone wants to use it, they need to pay for that right. And therefore, that's where you make money. And the other thing I just really want to stress, it doesn't matter whether you're looking to make a career out of your music or whether you're an amateur doing it part-time. If you're writing your music and your music is being subject to any form of public performance, it's generating money, then, again, it's that no-brainer. It's like if someone said to you, would you like some money? You're not going to say no. Well, most people wouldn't say no. So, that's sort of how it works. What was the first question, Elijah, that I forgot?
Just the best way to regularly get music played, but I feel like I'll give that answer if you want.
Yeah, go on.
No, not now. I could do that with Izzy on a different call, but if you want to fill in, You've got
Well, that's one of the hardest questions to provide an answer to. I mean, there's ways in which, obviously, that's a completely different session, isn't it? Building an audience base, fan base, getting your music heard. Are pluggers any good? Do they, etc., etc. I mentioned BBC Introducing purely because it's this great tool that is available to everyone and it's there for new music. BBC have set themselves this brief of trying to get as much new music heard as possible. And the way that they do it is through BBC Introducing. I receive an internal monthly newsletter that all of the BBC, so there's around about 30 odd regional BBC Introducing presenters, and once a month all of those presenters tell all their colleagues in the sort of BBC world who they think, who they've heard on their, who the new artists that are coming through on BBC on the uploader, and who they recommend to their artists, to their sort of peers, and that therefore feeds up the chain to One Extra, to Asian Network, to Six Music, and so on, and to One Radio 1. And that's where a lot of these new artists come from, through just simply starting out like all of you are, uploading your music. So again, it doesn't cost. Again, it's one of those sort of, well, if you want to move on, if you want to progress, get your music up, get your music heard, and hopefully then, who knows what's available to you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that, Stuart. I was like, even I'm learning. So just like hearing it out like that for the first time. Yeah, super interesting.
Okay, for everyone who's still here, Elijah said right at the start, can you keep it to half an hour because we need to keep it short and sweet, and it's so hard to do that. I had 80 odd slides and I cut them down and cut them down and cut them down. The thing is that this business is very complex. Well, it's not that complex, but there's a lot to it, and just understanding it briefly will help put you in a good place, a good starting point, really.
Yeah, and they can ask you questions as well. So we'll share Stuart details afterwards. And if you want to get through to us, you can email us at creatives@youthmusic.org.uk, and I can do Q&As on Wednesday or Fridays. So enjoy the rest of the evening, guys. Thanks, Stuart, Domenica.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back same time next week with Naina from Hoover Sound. So see you soon.
See you, everyone. Elijah, hope your hay fever gets better.
Thanks. Bye.
See you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.